Now, you mentioned that human beings like are built to mimic nature. Can you elaborate on how understanding natural rhythms kind of influence our approach to health and life?
Yeah. Um, I always like to say that we are nature. Like our bodies come from the nature, and when our souls are done with their trip here, that's where our bodies will return to nature. Oh, again, right? Our bodies will return to the earth. Um, and it's really helpful to understand that, because then by just looking out the window and observing what's going on around us, we can really tune into what is going on within us, and it helps guide our actions in a way that is most productive, the least stressful, the healthiest option for us. Like I said, we all have this knowing inside of us. And to a very great extent, this knowing actually comes from the earth and this connection that we have with it. And it very often really doesn't take much more than looking out of the window, because we all have this experience. Like you wake up on a beautiful sunny day, you jump out of bed, you're full of energy, and you just want to get the day started. Like you have this feeling of infinite potential and possibilities of all the wonderful things that you could do in a day. And then on the other hand, you wake up and it's dark and rainy outside and you don't really want to get out of bed. And then we feel guilty about it, and we beat ourselves up, and we still try to get ourselves into the gym at 5 a.m. in the morning. And it's just like, and don't get me wrong, like I'm pro consistency. Like a lot of us just like, we're also built to be a little lazy as human beings. So like there is virtue in somehow pushing through the things sometimes when they're difficult for us. But very often we push too hard. And then what we end up doing is being counterproductive or even harming ourselves. So in terms of, if we say now, like if we're in the northern hemisphere, we're in the middle of winter right now. This is a time of rest in nature. And again, you don't like, you just have to look out the window. Nature is resting right now, right? Like the trees even drop their leaves. There are so many animals that just hibernate all through winter. And actually, we were pretty much built to hibernate through winter as well. It's just that the modern tempo of life doesn't allow us to do that anymore. But if you think historically, like what did our ancestors used to do when the sun went down? Well, they went to sleep, because what else are they going to do without light, right? And then they didn't really get up until the sun came up again, because again, there was nothing to do. And all that really didn't start changing that long ago, historically speaking. It's only been about 100 years, 100, like out of all, the whole human history, that light bulbs and clocks changed everything for us. Right now, nobody looks out the window anymore to know what time it is, or like how to, we just look at the time and then we run until we collapse, and then we repeat the cycle again. And then we never stop, because when it gets dark, we just turn on all the lights and all the screens and we keep going. But I actually read, there's this really nice book that's called Wintering, that even just before the Industrial Revolution, they would go to bed during the winter when the sun came down. And because it's not, those are then very many hours of sleep. Most of us can't just sleep for 14, 15 hours, even if it's dark outside. People would naturally wake up around like 4 a.m. And stay up for a little bit to like reflect or meditate, or have some peaceful conversations with their loved ones, go to the bathroom, and then actually go back to sleep until the sun came up. So really get a lot of rest. But not only that, they also got this period during the night in the darkness to like go inside and be with themselves and reflect on their lives. And because it's really important to do that. And that's one thing that we hardly do anymore as well, because the tempo doesn't allow it, because it's hard to do that while watching Netflix. And yeah,
Yeah,
so that I found that super fascinating. And actually, when they repeated the study now, and they just basically put people in that same environment with that much darkness without artificial lights, it's what actually started happening to them. Again, like it's natural for us. You would go to bed when it's dark, you would get some nice sleep, then you would get up, meditate, self-reflect, do some inner work, and then just rest again until you're ready to get up. So I found that super fascinating. And I was like, okay, we really are built to rest in the winter, right?
Oh yeah, I feel like resting right now. You know, normally during the summertime, I mean, it's bright and early, like we would be out and about doing something outside. But now that, it's winter, it's like, oh, have a nice fireplace, have a nice cup of chamomile tea, and just kind of wind down and then talk to your family. How's everybody doing? It's very it's a time to wind down, and it feels so nice. So that's where I'm at. Like this evening, it's like, oh, it's so cozy. That's why I'm wearing my
Yeah.
jacket because it's a little chilly.
And it's not just like now we were talking winter, but it's what I like to talk about is actually energetic cycles, because then if we look all the other natural cycles, they share these similar energies, right? So now that we're in the middle of winter, that's the same energy as with the new moon, which was also actually at the time of this recording yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Like it's also a dark time, a time for rest and a time for sort of setting the intentions to manifest our new beginnings, but it's not a time to take action yet. And the same thing happens with women's menstrual cycles. Like your bleeding phase is a phase of rest, right? And you don't have to, nobody needs to tell you that the first day of your period is really not the optimal day to take massive action and exercise. Like you don't want to do that. You
Mhm.
want to wind down and rest and, you know, go within more than go without. You're not really that sociable. You don't want to hang out with people. You just want to be nice and cozy. And so it's important to see this parallels with the cycles and and that helps you understand what's really going on with you, even if you don't allow yourself to hear that inner knowing, or if you look at your to-do list and you feel like you have way too much to do to rest. It still helps you know rationally that it would be the optimal time, the optimal thing for you to do at this time.
Yeah, because it's like a hustle and grind, hustle and grind. It's like the toxicity of modern fast-paced world. We're just always busy, busy, busy. And sometimes then people feel guilty to actually relax and rest. And they're like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this instead. I have a list of things to do. I got to do this, I got to do that, especially as mothers, because you're a mom, you understand how it is sometimes. It gets a little bit hectic. What are some what are some strategies or something that you actually recommend for coping when we have a list of things to do and we just want to go ahead and just take rest?
To take rest. That would be my advice. And I do like I'm let's say I'm a recovering perfectionist, so I understand what it's like to and I always have like a million projects at once going on. So I understand what it's like to have an unmanageable to-do list. Um, and I also know very well what happens when we don't give ourselves the permission to rest, because we pretty much drive ourselves into the ground all the time
Mhm.
until like we crack and we get sick or whatever, and we're forced to take that rest that we've been refusing to give ourselves again, and then we just pick up the pace and we start all over again. So that's always my advice. When you feel that you need rest, rest, and then take a really hard look at that to-do list and decide what your priorities are, because we always complain like we don't have enough time.